Last night was fun, wasn't it? Good to see the old Battle River Crowfoot debate take place with, close to 10 candidates on stage, something like that. And it was fascinating. It was very much a generic, typical debate where everyone just talked about their points. There was no back and forth. It was just, here's the question, what's your answer? Here's the question, what's your answer? We're going down the line. And, the likes of Bonnie Critchley, who decided that she didn't really have much to offer her constituents. She just wanted to attack Pierre Poilievre on a public stage. That's what that was. You had the likes of Mr. Grant Abraham, who started very strong as the leader of the United Party in Alberta. And then he decided as well, he wanted to attack Pierre Poilievre, and it went downhill after that for him as well. And there was just some good candidates that stuck out, and some people that said some really crazy things, like the Liberal candidate, Darcy, who just said, yeah, everything's going great in Canada, and Mark Carney's the man. I don't understand what we need to change. There's nothing really to change out here. And, well, he got booed out of the room. It was fascinating, which led us to today, where some weird stories are taking place. David Eby, Premier David Eby, saying some dumb things. The guy who's been standing in front of a lot of pipelines, making sure nothing gets built when it comes to oil and gas, all of a sudden has a lot of good things to say about oil and gas and says some really dumb things in the process. U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra sits down with CTV and he talks about the negotiations that are happening between Canada and the U.S. and what this means for Canada moving forward. And last but not least, we hit the PEI bridge tolls again. And we talked about Anita Anand and her husband being a little too tied up in the financial dealings of the PEI bridge. Well, guess what? You're not going to be able to ask any more questions because the Liberal government has gone ahead and sealed all documents pertaining to that deal until 2026. It is fascinating. So anyways, welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm your host, Josh. I'm grateful to be back on with you yet again. If you get any value from today's episode, take the time to like, share, and subscribe. Helps us to grow, helps us to get to new audiences, and helps give people another option that is different from the mainstream media. And there's a lot to get into, so let's get into our first story, shall we? But Premier David Eby doing some questionable things. He has been standing in the way of a lot of the Alberta, Daniel Smith crowd who've been trying to get pipelines built and want to work with BC to get a Northern Gateway pipeline built. And David Eby, every step of the way, says, no, not going to do that. No, we need to look at the future. We need a green energy. That's what you get with David Eby. However, he stood in front of reporters and admitted that LNG and oil has been doing some great work for them. LNG and oil has been very helpful for their province, and goes on to say some ridiculous things.
I certainly welcome the recommendations from the Seniors Advocate. We are working hard to deliver more long-term care beds for British Columbians because we know they're urgently needed. And it's projects like Cedar LNG, LNG Canada, the Highland Valley Copper Project, Teck's bringing forward, the $30 billion worth of capital projects in the Northwest related to mining that will assist us in paying for this essential social infrastructure that we need across the province.
Next, we'll head to Aaron MacArthur from Global News. Go ahead, Aaron.
He talks about getting more long-term care available to seniors in BC and talks about how engaging these different natural resource projects is actually going to help them fund being able to build and expand their long-term care in the province. Yeah, that he admitted that right there. Listen to the rest of this.
Premier, you mentioned Donald Trump and his impact on the Canadian economy, but the president and the White House are putting support behind Alaska's LNG industry. Similar product, same markets, with a significantly less complicated regulatory regime. Can Canada, British Columbia, win this race? Win the fight to gain access to these markets?
Well, there's a one-word answer: yes. And the reason for that, the simplicity of our answer, is the president's conduct. Here you have an individual that is insulting and demeaning other countries, that insists that his only concern is Americans, that he will make arbitrary and extrajudicial decisions on a whim, announced through his own social media platform. If you are a government in Asia looking for reliable energy sources that you can count on, and a partner that you can count on that isn't going to suddenly cut off your access to energy, that isn't suddenly going to massively increase the tariffs on the energy or taxes on the energy that you're purchasing, then nobody would be looking at the United States right now. Canada is a reliable partner. We are a partner that can deliver affordably to Asia. We're a direct shot. You don't have to go through any canals. You don't have to worry about drought. And we are delivering the lowest carbon LNG in the world. And when you put those factors together, it means that foreign governments that are still concerned about climate change, of which there are many, are able to meet their own climate goals, are able to meet their energy demand, are able to support energy transition in their economies, and able to do so in a way that is reliable and that they can count on. Canada will win this race, and we will diversify our markets because of our Canadian values. And those are on display on this project right here at Cedar.
What a guy. What a guy. The fact he's been crapping so much in oil and gas for so long, and then all of a sudden he's like praising LNG is the way to go. It's so great. The question was posed to him. You guys are trying to get LNG going. It's been very slow because of regulatory measures and things of that nature. Alaska, an American state, is getting their own LNG terminals going with far less regulatory measures and likely can get faster. Do you think he can win this out? He says, that's okay, but we will still win. And left me wondering, how? Why? How are you going to still win? Because Alaska has got a lot going for them right now. Again, they have the far fewer regulatory measures. They have far fewer hoops to jump through. They can get things going and get their product to market faster than we can. But yet someone's going to choose to purchase our goods? Why? David Eby says, because we got good vibes. That's essentially what he said there. Donald Trump's just been, unpredictable. Donald Trump has been fickle. Donald Trump, bum. We can get our product to Asia. No canals, but this, that, the other. Okay, cool. Guess what? Japan signed a $550 billion deal with the U.S. $200 billion of that being in energy. China is in deep talks with the U.S. right now to get energy going. So where are we going to win? People are just going to choose us because we're good people, as David Eby says? No. These politicians think you're stupid. They think you're morons. They think you don't know what's going on out there. This, my friends, was highly insulting to me. The audacity of this man, of all people, with everything he's done, everything he's seen, everything he's also not acted on, has the audacity now to say, yeah, we'll still win. We'll diversify eventually. We just got an LNG port going up in BC that took 10 years to get to market. We'll still win because Donald Trump bad, we're good. These people are unserious. These people are hard on the head. They're hard to listen to. And the virtue signaling is frustrating and is, as I said, insulting. We'll still get to market. We'll be okay because people will just like us better. Even though we're slower, even though we have no concrete plans, even though we're actually unreliable right now. People still choose us though, because we have the lowest carbon LNG. And in the same breath, he said, we're trying to get to Asia. Asia don't care about climate goals, my friend. But you just sit there and say that that's the case. You just sit there and act like that's going to happen. Okay. All right. Yeah, Asia cares a lot about carbon emissions these days, don't they? Don't they? It's really fascinating to me to see this continue to transpire in our politics. And then you wonder why Canadians are so hostile towards Americans. Because we are such a propagandized nation. We are consistently lied to by those we're supposed to trust. And a lot of Canadians still trust them, the likes of the CBC of the world. And it was fascinating because CTV sat down with American Ambassador Pete Hoekstra. And they were talking about, again, the relationship that's been happening between America and the U.S., the negotiations that are taking place, and Canada's response to the U.S. at this point. And it was fascinating what he had to say here.
And why some Canadians are upset with your president when he talks about the 51st state, and why some of them don't want to travel, why provinces are banning it. Do you understand why?
In reality, I've talked to a lot of Canadians, and I will be the first to admit I still don't fully understand how personal and how aggressive some Canadians have become on this issue. Okay, so no, I don't fully understand it. I understand that those feelings exist. They're part of my reality. But, they don't really exist on the other side of the border. Americans are not banning the sale of Canadian products into America. I've asked a lot of places, what's American tourism doing? And they say, it's the same, if not up this year. Americans still love Canada. We're coming here. We're spending American dollars in Canada because we view Canada as a friendly country. And even though, we both have warts, okay? You don't like the 51st state? Guess what? We didn't like it that you didn't pay for NATO for years. But that didn't stop us from coming to Canada or evaluating Canadian products based on their merit and their value.
Oh my gosh. Pete Hoekstra saying it how it is. You have to understand, you kind of put this all in context. I understand, again, the whole 51st state thing really set people off because I don't think, maybe Donald Trump knew this, maybe he didn't. But when Donald Trump was going down the path of the 51st state, I don't even think even the most astute American understands the underbelly and undertone of how insecure Canadians really are when it comes to the relationship with the United States. It's always really it's deep in there. It's really deep in there. And Donald Trump poked at one of the more raw nerves in this country of us becoming American. Yes, we've been friendly with the United States for a long time. However, you talk to any Canadian, the idea of them being American is incredibly offensive because in the reality, Canadians have always looked down on Americans. Whether you like it or not, whether you understand or even recognize that bias in yourself or not, Canadians have always looked down on Americans. They don't want to be American. They think they're above Americans. And so that insecurity lies and that tension lies because America's still the biggest. America's still the baddest. America's still got the biggest military. They have the biggest economy. And we have always just been the little bro. No matter what we'd say in our minds that we are better than the United States, on paper, we are very much lesser than the United States. So when the U.S. comes right back in your face and says, you're going to become the 51st state, the offense grows and they'll never, ever forget that. Now add on top of that how propagandized we are, how the messaging that's being spread in the media, and how you should hate the United States, you should hate Donald Trump, you should hate the senators, you should boom, boom, boom. These are the people you should hate. Then you're going to get, that's why we're banning alcohol off the shelves. That's why Canadians aren't vacationing down in the United States, allegedly. America doesn't give us two thoughts. That's why they keep coming here. But Canadians, Trump hit the deep, deep-seated insecurity of Canadians, and that's why you got the reaction you did. But I do agree with him. You're mad about the 51st state? Well, guess what? We're mad they didn't pay into NATO for years. But that didn't stop us from doing things. We didn't ban your products from our country. Isn't that interesting? Again, the whole idea of tariffs were so offensive to Canadians as well because they also didn't understand it. Trump was putting a tax on his businesses if they purchased from Canada. Again, it was a whole reciprocal trade. That's what the big thing was for him. And Canada's response was, we'll put counter tariffs on you, which was stupid in the first place. And they're also just going to ban your alcohol. Okay, what are we doing here? That's how it all went down. And I can see how that is also offensive to the United States, where it's like, hey, we're just in a trade war here. We're just going back and forth. But your response is you're just going to ban our products now? Okay. That's such a weird reaction. And so when you don't understand the deep-seated nature of all this, and you're just an American on the outside looking in, it's really odd behavior, and it can come out of nowhere. And I understand where Pete Hoekstra is coming from on this one. But as we finish up, we covered this story yesterday, right? Where the whole situation with the PEI bridge and us, cutting the tolls from $51 down to $20, whatever it was. And again, the question was, all right, who's subsidizing it? What was the deal that was done? Because there is a private company that takes care of the bridge, that ownership of the bridge will be then shifted over to the federal government in 2032. We want to know what the deal was looking like. How was it structured? Who's getting paid? How much are we paying them to subsidize for the lost wage and lost money, this, that, the other? And Carney wouldn't answer that question. He wouldn't. And the more people like me were asking those questions, we did a whole show on it yesterday, they kept doubling down saying, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. They even went as far as sealing the files when it comes to the bridge. They're sealing them until 2026. The Department of Transport has sealed all records regarding the Confederation Bridge tolls until November of 2026. Prime Minister Mark Carney yesterday had no comment on costs of ongoing subsidies to the bridge operator, whose investors included then Transport Minister Anita Anand's husband. We have found it necessary to consult with third parties, said the Transport Department's Access to Information Office. Blacklock's had sought all emails and documents regarding tolls on the Prince Edward Island crossing that operates under lease by Strait Crossing Development Incorporated. Investors in Strait Crossing have included a firm whose managing director, John Knowlton, is husband to Minister Anand. Neither Anand nor the Prime Minister would detail the cost of compensation to Strait Crossing for reduced tolls, but guess what? We're sealing off the bridge file, so you can't ask any more questions about it. It's greasy. You cannot trust these people. Yeah, they're doing some good things. Yeah, that's kind of what, I'll admit there's some things they've done. I'm like, okay, I can get on board with that. But man, these people are greasy. They'll always pull the magician trick. Look over here. We're doing all crazy up here, over here. Look over here. Look. It's the Wizard of Oz. This is how they do it. And it is so sketchy that they're deciding to seal these files. Meaning there is definitely insider information was shared. And I wouldn't be surprised if it really all came out and we really went hard on them, that Anita Anand and her husband would be seriously fined or see prison time. Because you don't just seal files if there's nothing to see here. It was sketchy as heck, and we will keep an eye on that one. Shout out Blacklocks for that one. But anyways, enjoy your Wednesday. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.